Hello, my name's Michael Conneely, and this video is all about a labyrinth journey which you can do online with me to heal yourself of what is buried in your unconscious and your shadow. And it's always accompanied by a reading I give you of both your Vedic astrology and your Western astrology. So I invite you to book a deep and changeful, healing and empowering labyrinth journey accompanied by a wonderful astrology reading. And this way we can find out what is hidden in our unconscious and in our shadow and raise it to the light and stop it running our life. And we can come into conscious, needed awareness of ourself and our scripts. And then we can come into our power and our full beauty. So before I go on more, I'm just going to invite Maggie, who is filming, to show you the labyrinth, which has been very kindly provided locally here in Sligo by Edward Durand, who has built this wonderful labyrinth on his family land. So Maggie, if you'd like to show them the labyrinth. So you can see its beauty, what an achievement it is. So let's go back to the root I'm aware of the labyrinth, which was the Greek myth of the labyrinth, which gives clues to the nature of the labyrinth in our human life. Now, I first encountered this when I was a kid. I was reading Mary Renault's The Bull from the Sea. I love her books. And she based it on the Greek myth, which is about finding what is buried in your unconscious and your shadow, and you may not know it's there. It's like the Jungian view of the unconscious that can run our life and we don't know what's there. So we need to find out what's there and what it means in our personality and in our life. What effect is it having on your personality and in your life? And it raises the immense challenge as to what each of us now has to do in our life with our personal labyrinth. So to attune you to the ancient Greek roots, well, in the Greek myth, King Minos of Crete, this is before the Greeks invaded, I think 1400 BC-ish, King Minos of Crete failed to make a sacrifice demanded of the gods. What had happened was he gained possession of the most utterly beautiful white bull, but with the condition that he use it to make a sacrifice to the gods. But he didn't fulfill the divine requirement. So in punishment for the insult to the gods, the god Poseidon, god of earthquakes, caused King Minos' wife Pasiphae to fall in love with the bull. She became infatuated. She commissioned the master craftsman Daedalus to create a hollow wooden cow so that she could get inside it, so the bull could now enter her and mate with her, which is what the consuming passion of her life. And the child born of this mating was the dreadful Minotaur, half man, half bull. To hide his regal shame, King Minos ordered Daedalus to build a labyrinth, like this one here, to hide the Minotaur within it, in the middle of it, And in fact, it was designed that if anyone did manage to get into the middle of it, they could not find the way out again. But in this labyrinth work we are doing, we will find what is in the middle of our labyrinth, and we will find our way out to live the rest of our life healing it on the basis of what we saw and coming into the meant fullness of our power, the meant fullness of our karmic challenges, which of course are so fully expressed, particularly in Vedic astrology. Which of us has a terrible labyrinth in our unconsciousness that we cannot find the way out of? Maybe we can never even get to the center. And what do we have to sacrifice to the creature within our labyrinth to sort ourselves out and become the fullness of you, the fullness of me that was intended for this incarnation? Okay, returning to the story of the Greeks, basically King Minos had a terrible problem. He had defied the gods. And so he regularly demanded from each of the kingdoms that the Cretes then ruled that they send 7 youths and 7 maidens to be sent, essentially to do bull dance with the Minotaur in the ring, but essentially to be sacrificed to the horrific Minotaur. Has you been sacrificed to what is in the centre of your labyrinth? But the twist of the tale is that Ariadne, the daughter of King Minos, fell passionately in love with one of the 7 Athenian youths, the beautiful young man Theseus. He hadn't been selected as one of the 7 young men, but he asked one of them to leave the party, and he travelled to Crete with the intention of sorting out the problem. And then he unravelled what was going on as he entered. The plan was that he would be able to retrace his steps from the middle of the labyrinth after killing the horrific Minotaur. His lover Ariadne said, what you need is a thread. You tie the thread to the gatepost at the beginning and unravel it as you go round and round and round and round. And then you kill the monster that is running this kingdom, and you can find your way out of it. And that's what he did. He killed the horror of the Minotaur. He got out again. And then he and Ariadne eloped across the sea. So us humans do need to do a journey to get to what's in the centre of our labyrinth, to find out what is there, running our life, running our definition of ourself that we live by. Us humans so often need to do a journey to get to the centre of our labyrinth. We need to find out what is buried in our unconscious and our shadow. You see, the self that us people are aware of is just a tiny corner of the total map of ourself, whereas the rest of the map is lost behind the range of mountains that's behind us in the vast area of our unconscious and our shadow. That's the Jungian map of the self. We need to find out what is buried in our unconscious, what is driving our life, what is blocking us in our life, causing us to live in endless lying denial of the karmic fulfillment of who we meant to become in this life by unraveling karmas from past life and arising empowered and more connected to the divine. Are you like this in some way? So the answer is to do a journey to the centre of your labyrinth, to find out what monster is there, maybe to kill it, maybe to heal it. So then we can be free. And not only can we be free, we can then also follow our thread out and find our way out of the labyrinth, which no one else could do. So then we can live our life with beautiful, fuller awareness of who we are, what is driving us, and indeed what was driving us. Then not only will we have fuller awareness of ourselves, we will also step more and more into our true power. Our past karmas that were running us when we were tied to the labyrinth, these will be burned and ended. They will no longer run our lives. So we need to know what is said to be our negative past life karmas that tie us, and Vedic astrology can be particularly marvellous in revealing those, the karmas that bind us. We need to know what is buried in our unconscious and our shadow to bring in a more Western and Jungian approach. And I always combine Vedic astrology and Western astrology in all my readings. So the Minotaur is essentially a symbol for our shadow self. So what you can do now is get an astrology reading from me where I will combine both your Vedic and Western astrology. And then we work out a full statement of what was revealed, what was stuffed down into your unconscious, what was harming you and running your life. And that needs to be raised to the light now. It needs to be purged now or ended now. The labyrinth was never a myth. It's a map of our human psyche and our karmas and our divine life purpose. So we need to do the work. Now I want to tell you what happened to me when I did my journey to the abyss in Ed's Labyrinth. There's a group of us here, and each of us, one after the other, went into the labyrinth. I was number 3. And basically, it's a long journey. You have to go through layer after layer after layer until you get to the center. And when I got to the center, I saw what I did not plan to see or expect to see. What I saw was me as a little baby in my convent orphanage. And so, I looked at the little baby me, and the realization I was offered is that, I had never been valued. I mean, at least I didn't end up in the convent orphan graveyard. I visited the place when I was 9 and saw the graveyard, and there's several of them around here in the west of Ireland. And, but I was damaged, really, because I carried a wound from the center of my abyss, which I saw there now when I did this wonderful exercise, which was how, because I wasn't valued, I always sort of retreat in social settings and can't express the fullness of me. So it was very useful of me to come up with this amazing realization, and thank you to Ed for building this labyrinth and offering it to people who can come here and do the work here. So basically, get your ball of thread lined up, book an astrology reading and journey to the abyss with me. Find out what is in the center of your labyrinth that is running your life. And then let's do work after the reading and after the journey to the abyss, all of which we do online, and bring empowerment, healing and purpose and intention. So I hope this video has been of learning and interest to you. It has been to me, and that we will indeed work together to unpack the wonderful offering from Vedic and Western astrology and from Labyrinth work. All blessings to our work. Go for it.